Albania is an incredibly diverse country. It shares a stunning coastline by the Adriatic Sea with Croatia, Macedonia, and Greece. Here you can lie in the sun, snorkel, dive, or enjoy a fresh, locally produced Mediterranean dinner and a glass of wine in a beautiful little restaurant by the promenade. Once you have had enough of sandy beaches and crystal clear water, you can take a trip inland, into the heart of this small but complex country, to admire its snow-capped mountains and its diverse flora and fauna. Spend days hiking in solitude amidst the jagged peaks, discover hidden lakes with turquoise water, and spend the nights in beautiful villages with fairy tale castles and filled with historic buildings and ruins, ranging from the Roman to the Ottoman Empire. Alternatively, spend the night in a remote little mountain guest house, or camp wild in the beautiful nature surrounding you. While this gem of a country is still relatively unknown, it's becoming more and more popular with digital nomads. Its low cost of living, beauty, and friendly people are just a couple of the reasons. The other is its very generous visa policy. Americans, for example, can stay in the country for 1 year without a visa. But how is it to live in Albania as a digital nomad? What is the cost of living? Where can you meet other digital nomads? What to do in the spare time? Is there good internet? And of course, what are the visa policies, and are they really as hassle-free as they sound? Spoiler alert, they aren't. This and more I will answer in this destination guide to Albania for digital nomads. If you want to jump right to the visa part, you will find the timestamps down below. Albania is a country of nearly 3 million people, located in the Balkan region of southeastern Europe. It is situated between Montenegro, Kosovo, North Macedonia, and Greece. It is neither part of the Schengen Agreement nor the European Union, which makes it a perfect spot for you to wait for your Schengen visa window to reopen. Find a video up here for more information on that and what it means. Who knows, you might actually like it so much in Albania that you decide to stay longer. Albania has some very interesting visa options. However, they do come with some stipulations and tax implications, which we will look at closer at the end of this video. Its capital and favorite spot for digital nomads is Tirana. Its language is Albanian, or Shqip. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, as it is called in Albanian. However, the older generation might speak also Russian, and almost all younger people do speak very good English, so you should be able to get around with that, at least in the bigger cities. Its currency is the Albanian leke. Currently, $1 translates to 111 Albanian leke. Keep in mind that Albania is a cash society, so you will have trouble trying to pay with your credit card, particularly in smaller shops or taxis, stuff like that. Make sure you have sufficient amount of cash with you at all times. When it comes to the weather, Albania has great weather all year round, which makes it the perfect destination for digital nomads that like to be outdoors. Along the Mediterranean coastlines, the summer is very long and very hot. It also gets quite crowded in the beach towns. Keep that in mind if you want a beach holiday, and consider if you should go in the shoulder month instead. The prices are also rising quite significantly during high season. If you head inland and to the north, on the other hand, the weather is seasonal with hot, dry summers and snowfall and cold winters, which makes it a great spot for people who would like to ski aside from digital nomading. Safety concerns. Albania is a very safe country. Also, female solo travelers should not have to face any issues here. Culture and history. One thing that every traveler traveling to Albania and seeking to understand its culture and its people needs to familiarize themselves with is Albania's very complex history. Generally, the whole region, the whole Balkan region, has a very, very complex history, and it does play a big role in how it has shaped its people. But let's get back to Albania. Explaining Albania's history in depth here would probably be enough for a couple of standing alone videos, and I'll not do it justice, but I'll give you a little bit of an introduction so that you can then research the rest on your own. Over the centuries and millennia, a lot of different cultures have left their imprint on Albania, and their buildings, some very well preserved, can be seen to this day. Roman, Venetian, Ottoman, and more. But what is of deep importance to understand Albanians today is its recent history. Shortly after World War II and until its collapse in 1990, Albania was under strict communist dictatorship. Until his death in 1985, Albania was led by the dictator Enver Hoxha. Hoxha prohibited any form of religion. He prohibited leaving the country, traveling outside, receiving news from outside of the country, free speech, just to name a few of them. Some go so far to call Albania the North Korea of Europe.
For more than 50 years, Albania and its capital Tirana was so hermetically sealed they were named the Little North Korea of Europe. Even today, the communist dictatorship will still considered one of the most repressive and bloodiest regimes of contemporary history.
Disobedience led to execution, and not only of the perceived perpetrator, but oftentimes also of those close to them, family members, for example.
Lulgeta comes from a so-called tainted family, one labelled as an enemy of the state over several generations. Many of her loved ones were hunted down, convicted, and even executed for their actions against the regime.
Hoxha was so deeply paranoid that somebody would come and invade his beautiful country that he spent a lot of money building over 170,000 bunkers all over the country. These can still be seen today and are probably the most obvious leftover and reminder of his reign, at least for visitors. So when you visit Albania, keep in mind that the country has only been open to the world since 1990. That's 30 years. Also keep in mind that to this day, there are people who still agreed with his rule and feel like, times were better then. Of course, a country's history and the national and personal trauma that entails could never be done justice by a few sentences in a YouTube video by a foreigner. I am fully aware of that. This is just to give you a slight idea of the background of this country, and the rest I strongly encourage you to dive into and discover yourself when you're there. Now, with that being said, let's move on to digital nomad essentials. Things you, particularly as a digital nomad, require to live and work in Albania. First, always, internet. Internet in Albania is good in the big cities. You will find 4G coverage here, and the internet will be slower and more spotty on the countryside. However, Albania has a very big coffee culture. Most cafes have good Wi-Fi and allow you to sit and work there with your laptop for hours. As always, I recommend buying a local SIM card if you plan to stay longer to ensure available internet. Infrastructure. Albania has some tourist infrastructure when it comes to, for example, hotels and tour offerings. Its main airport for international flights is Tirana. When it comes to traveling and exploring the country, however, renting a car is probably the least difficult option. The Albanian railway system, which was built by Hoxha, has not been kept up since the collapse of the regime. There are buses in the bigger cities, which also are quite walkable if you stay close to the city center, or you could take an occasional cab. There are also minibus lines to travel cross-country. However, many go from Tirana, so you oftentimes have to go back there before being able to take the next bus to a new location, making your trip a lot longer than it has to be. Also, finding out their timetable, which seems to be interpreted quite loosely, is not the easiest thing for a foreigner. Accommodation. Hotels, hostels, Airbnbs are all available and affordable. On the countryside, you will also find plenty of guest houses, which are often simple. During the summer, however, the prices will soar in the coastal regions of, for example, Saranda, so be prepared for this. Cost of living. As always, I have transferred the prices to US dollars because I feel that the US dollar is the easiest reference currency for most people to have an idea and transfer to their own currency. And these prices, as always, are averages. So if you live in Tirana, prices might be higher. If you live in a small mountain village, prices might be lower. My numbers always come from Numbeo. An inexpensive meal will on average cost you $5.25. A cappuccino will cost you $1.26. A monthly transport pass, which technically you probably don't need, will cost you $14.41. Taxi starting tariff is $2.70. 1 kilometer taxi ride will cost you $4.35. And waiting in traffic for an hour in a cab will cost you $13.07. Basic utilities for an 85 square meter apartment for 1 month will cost you approximately $80.63. Internet will cost you $16.40 a month. And a 1-bedroom apartment in the city center will cost you $346.60. A 1-bedroom apartment outside of the city center, on the other hand, will cost you $203.59. Keep in mind, these are prices for rental apartments. If you choose to stay in an Airbnb, this will be more expensive. This is one of the reasons why staying long-term in a country usually is a lot cheaper. Where to stay and meet other digital nomads. Let's start with Tirana. Tirana is the capital of Albania with about 400,000 people living there, and it is the country's digital nomad hotspot. Surrounded by mountains and with great digital nomad infrastructure and low cost of living, Tirana is a great digital nomad destination. It has a great selection of places to work from, such as co-working spaces, cafes, and hostels. It is a very modern city with traces of its dark communist history in many places, such as, for example, the bunkers the paranoid dictator Hoxha built everywhere. Bunk Art 1, for example, is a real-life 5-level bunker turned museum and invites the visitor to learn more about Albania's communist history. So does the National History Museum, which will give you a good idea of what happened during that time. But you can also find modern-day cafes and restaurants, as well as the giant 6-story mall Topani Shopping Center in Tirana. One great way to get your bearings upon your arrival here is to take part in a free walking tour around the city. I will link one in the description. Let's have a look into some neighborhoods of Tirana. For trendy shops, bars, restaurants and the best nightlife, head to Bloku. This neighborhood was once reserved for the communist elite, but is now the place to be seen in Tirana. Here, you can also visit the residence of former dictator Hoxha. Another neighborhood to explore is Zona 1, the center of the city, which has the largest fish market in Albania in the new bazaar. It's close to the central Skanderberg Square, who was a national hero, and has plenty of cafes and bars to work from or relax. Komunaj Parasit. Komunaj Parasit is located just outside the city center, but is a great option for families because it offers plenty of green spaces and it is very close to the artificial lake of Tirana. You will still be able to get into the city center quickly though. So now that we've talked a little bit about Tirana in general, let's look a little bit about what you can do in your free time here. Albania is full of jagged mountain ranges, and if you are craving some time in nature, you will find some right at your doorstep. There are plenty of day hikes near Tirana. I will link some interesting guided tours in the description, together with the usual travel resources. Dashti Express. This cable car runs from just outside the city up to the top of Dashti Mountain, one of the best destinations to quickly get out of the city for just a couple of hours. While riding up the mountain, you will be able to have a great view over the city. And once you've reached the top, there are plenty of activities waiting for you. Hiking, a playground, a hotel, mini golf, paragliding, and more. Lake Shkodra. You could rent a car and drive to beautiful Lake Shkodra, which sits between the border of Albania and Montenegro. Discover old monasteries, go for hikes, or dive into some history by visiting Rosafa Fortress, which gives stunning views over the lake. The Blue Eye. The Blue Eye is a natural freshwater spring over 50 meters deep. It creates a beautiful deep blue and green color in the water, and there are oxygen bubbles floating to the surface from the 50 meters depth. Beirut, the city of 1,000 windows. Beirut is located in the heart of the mountains. It is famous for its thousands of windows that all face the viewer in a surprisingly symmetrical way, almost as if they were observing you. The city was built into the side of a mountain and features distinct Ottoman architecture. Beirut is the 9th largest city in Albania, so most people take a trip and spend a night or two in the old town. This will give you enough time to explore the ancient ruins at Beirut Castle and the Byzantine churches in the area. Durres. Durres is the 2nd largest city in Albania and would also be a good destination to settle down for a couple of weeks if you like. Durres is located on the western coastline of the Adriatic Sea, making it a very important port city for the country. It too has modern infrastructure and a coastal location. Pair that with great restaurants, bars, cafes and nightlife, and you got yourself a nice spot for many a digital nomad. The central square on Rüga Alexander Goga is where you will find the most things happening. It is surrounded by bars and restaurants and gives you a great opportunity to people watch. Durres does not have co-working spaces, but it does have plenty of cafes to get some work done. That is, if you're not spending time by the beautiful beach. Durres has a great archaeological site you might want to visit, the Durres Amphitheater, which was built 100 AD. The third city that is popular amongst digital nomads is Saranda. Saranda is in the heart of the Albanian Riviera and is only 30 minutes by ferry from the beautiful Greek island of Corfu. If your visa allows it, you should hop over for a day trip. Saranda is a very popular tourist destination during summer. The beaches will be packed and the price is significantly higher. Shkodra is a relatively affordable part of Saranda that still offers the necessary digital nomad infrastructure. It has good beach bars and is within walking distance to the port of Saranda and its beach. Shkodra is right in the busy city center. Here you won't miss a thing. But you will also have to deal with the brunt of the crowds at peak times. It is right above the main Saranda beach and within walking distance to the port. Working from Saranda, as with Durres, will have to be done from the comfort of your home or a cafe, since there are no co-working spaces available, at least yet. While in Saranda, go up to Le Corsi Castle to enjoy the beautiful vista over the whole area. You can watch the sunset from the restaurant located inside the castle. It has a huge terrace that will allow you to enjoy a nice dinner with the best view in town. More things to do while you're in Albania. Gjirokaster. Gjirokaster is a beautiful old Ottoman town, which is so well preserved it has been designated UNESCO World Heritage Site status. Wander along the cobblestone streets in the old town, visit the colorful shops and market. Eat the delicious food and stop by Gjirokaster Fortress overlooking the entire city. The fortress holds many historical artifacts in the grounds and the on-site museum. This even includes a US Air Force jet which made an emergency landing here during the Cold War. A tour will give you a deeper insight and understanding of the area. The fortress is also a great viewpoint over the entire city and valley. Osumi Canyons. Albania has an incredible amount of impressive, dramatic, untouched nature to offer. One such place that you should not miss if you enjoy spending time outdoors is the Osumi Canyons, or the Grand Canyon of Albania. The Osumi Canyon is the destination for whitewater rafting in Albania, at least during certain months of the year. At other times, depending on the level of the water, you can go canyoning or experience other adventures. These activities are recommended to be done with guides due to the unpredictability of the canyon. You will need an experienced local. As usual, you will find some tours in the travel resource section of this video. Butrint National Park. Butrint is the most visited UNESCO World Heritage Site in the country and one of the most important archaeological sites in Albania. Butrint has been inhabited since prehistoric times. Among the archaeological treasures you can visit here are a Roman theatre, a Venetian castle, and a great basilica, paying witness to all the cultures that have come and gone here. Last but not least, the biggest and most beautiful adventure in my opinion, hike the Albanian Alps, or as they are also called, the Accursed Mountains. You can plan for a 3 to 5 day itinerary, depending on your desired intensity. There are tours you can take part in, or you can solo hike. But keep in mind that the infrastructure is very limited, so if you decide to solo hike, be sure that you are well prepared. Hiking tours are mostly circular, starting and ending in Shkodra. Especially for the guided tours, the places in summer go real fast, so make sure to book in advance if you want to take part in this. Alright, let's look at the visa options then, shall we? Albania does not offer a digital nomad visa per se. However, anyone is free to live in Albania on a residence permit for a year, with the option to extend this for another year as long as they can afford it. This is great news for anybody who wants to spend some time in a destination for a prolonged time but might not have the option or qualify for other digital nomad visas, either because of the weakness of their passport or because you don't have enough income. But before you start the celebration and the flight booking, let me tell you, unfortunately, it isn't as easy as it sounds. And I will get right into that. Let me just cover the other option quickly, which is a tourist visa. Actually, Albania offers visa-free entry to quite a lot of countries, most of them part of the OECD. And here you basically can enter Albania visa-free for 3 months. Nationals that aren't on this list of visa-free countries, which I will link down below, will have to apply for a tourist visa to enter for 3 months and can best do so at the closest Albanian consulate. That being said, let's get back to those who want to stay longer in Albania, the process and the pain points you need to know before making a decision. Americans, for example, can enter Albania visa-free for an entire year. Basically, you just have to show up at the border and you'll get an entry stamp. This might be possible for other nationalities as well, but you would have to do your own research which nationalities this applies to. Other nationalities will have to acquire the aforementioned long-term visa. I will link it in the description. And this will allow you to stay in the country for more than 90 days. In order to do so, as always, you will have to provide some paperwork. Number 1 would be a valid passport that is valid for 3 months past your exit date. A passport-sized photo in color with a black background. The filled-in visa application form, and a bank statement that goes at least 6 months back, showing that you have the financial means to support yourself during your stay in Albania. Furthermore, you will need travel insurance and a clean criminal record. If you come to Albania to visit, for example, a friend or family members, you will need an invitation letter by them. You will also need proof of accommodation in Albania and your booked flight itinerary. When are you arriving, where are you going, which countries are you passing, and so on. If you bring children under the age of 18, these will need a signed document by both their parents or by both guardians that will prove that they are allowed to travel to Albania. This is actually generally very common if you travel with kids and, for example, travel without the other parent, because otherwise you could be facing kidnapping charges. This is no joke. Last but not least, you will have to have all these documents in original, you will have to have them legalized, and you will have to have them translated to Albanian. So, once you've finished all these steps, you will have to go to the migration registration office in Albania in person and register there. And you should have your answer within 30 days. After you have received your answer, you can then go and collect your residency card at the same office where you did apply. So, now to the not insignificant pain points. Albania is really trying hard to put itself on the map and attract digital nomads and, establish itself as a great digital nomad destination. They've even changed from a normal visa process to the e-visa process, and I think that is really commendable. However, there seems to be a lot of pain points that are not working flawlessly yet, and there are a lot of complaints online in the expat and digital nomad community, with more and more expats actually asking for the help from immigration lawyers. One of the pain points that has been described, for example, is that depending on which clerk you get in the registration office, the demands for which paperwork you need and how it has to be filled in differs quite substantially. So if you are unlucky and you come back on a different day, you might get completely different prerequisites and different papers that you need to get than the first time you've arrived there. But that isn't even the biggest problem in my opinion. Anybody living and working from Albania is required to pay taxes in Albania, and apparently that process is incredibly complex. It requires going to the National Business Center and registering there, where they only speak Albanian, paying a fee and going through the fiscalization process. You will also need to set up a local bank account where all your income, no matter if it has been made in Albania or outside of Albania, will have to be paid into. Now, for digital nomads, particularly if you're not planning to set up a permanent base in Albania, I think this is a really big pain point. Having to transfer all your income to an Albanian bank and not even knowing or being sure if the bank is, capable of handling the kind of international payments, transactions, and the money receiving from different international countries that digital nomads actually do on a relatively regular basis. Plus, you can only open a bank account in Albania if you have an Albanian residence permit. On the other hand, you can only get an Albanian residence permit if you have an Albanian bank account. So all in all, this seems to be quite the headache. My opinion, therefore, is that you should absolutely go visit Albania. It's a beautiful country, but unless you have good reason, like, for example, you really want to stay in Albania for the long term, or you are looking for a country where you can easily obtain a residence permit, but you don't have that many options because you, for example, have a weaker passport, I would recommend only going to Albania on a tourist visa for the 3 months or the 90 days. If, however, you choose to apply for an Albanian residency for the aforementioned or your own personal reasons, I strongly recommend that you try and go through an Albanian immigration lawyer right away to save yourself a lot of headaches. Now, if you would like to see more options in the region, keep an eye out for the upcoming videos. I'm working on quite a few countries here, and the next one will be Serbia. In the meantime, why not check out this video about a beautiful country that offers you a digital nomad visa for 4 years, Mexico. Until then, keep exploring, go see this beautiful planet of ours for yourself. Thanks for today. Bye bye, I'll see you in the next one.